Okay, so what we're going to show you today is how to do freehand-ish hazards and how, if they've not gone perfectly like these, to fix them in a way where hopefully on the tabletop no one will ever know. Okay, so very quickly, assembly tips. Use some nippers with flat blades, some high quality ones. These do come with the price of being more brittle, so you can only use them for the smaller work, but we're going to be dry brushing around the edge here, and anything we leave there, good or bad, will be kind of highlighted. So nip them off with a flat pair of nippers that aren't going to hack into the body of it, and then very carefully. I'm going to do some scraping here. We don't want that line there. We'll highlight it by accident if we leave it there, so we've got to get rid. Okay, priming done. I'm on my egg. I want to be able to get a good angle at it. And let's get going as normal, Series D. Now, I'm going over black here, and you could absolutely start off with white. It might give you an easier job, but I think it's useful to show you. So you've got to start with a dirty yellow. A lot of people struggle with yellow, and they're always talking about trying to get good coverage with it and stuff like that. And the way to kind of help yourself out is to start off with a yellow that has good coverage. Not necessarily the color you're after, the final yellow, but this is going to give us a very good foundation. Work that water in with my finger. You don't want to saturate your brush. Base coats are a little bit wetter, but you don't want to put a blob of water inside your brush. Entire idea behind our technique. Even with my old base coating brush that I'm using here. Keep them pretty right. And once you're prepped, all over. This is going to take a couple of goes, but as I always say, time is time. The number of steps aren't time, right? Whether something takes long or not is down to whether it takes long, not how many steps you have to do. So if each step is like a couple of seconds, it won't take too long. There you go, let it dry, repeat that as many times as is needed. Immediately from the second one, you should kind of notice, there we go, way better. I'm probably going to do 3 coats, I reckon, should be enough. Number 3, there we go, that's the ticket. You can do less towards the top if you want to suggest that the top's darker, or less towards the bottom if you want to suggest that the bottom is darker because it's got more weathered. You know, either way, absolutely fine. Perfect, maybe that's it actually. All right, so you can see the difference here. We're going to go for a typical highlighting yellow. And generally, if this is a pure yellow, this is going to come with drastically worse coverage than our previous paint. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix them together a little bit, and we should manage to get the properties of both. Obviously, I've got some of the old yellow in my brush still a little bit, so maybe I need a little bit less of that. All right, test elsewhere. We're still stippling, and then start towards the top of your piece. So you've got one bright line that we've done kind of opaque, but the yellow has got bad coverage, which makes it easier to get a better quality blend. And then as there's less on the brush, we're working our way down the piece. We'll get a natural blend there. We can also dilute it and mix it with the previous one to soften that transition. Very easy. I'm just going to use my brush a little clean. What I'm going to do now is add a tiny bit of a brown in. You could also use a purple if you wanted, or something like that. You only need a smidge. Test. And we're going to pop this towards the bottom. And you can see that brown had better coverage, so that's doing more, even though there was way less on the brush. So what we're going to do, take some more water, dilute it, mix with the previous paint more, and just stipple on that transition line. I'm going very, very fast here. You could go slower if you wanted to get it more smooth. Okay, so what do you do if you want to do stripes and you don't have a masking tape of the desired thickness of those stripes? This is what I would recommend. So what we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves one guideline in the middle of each part. Make sure your piece is fully dry before doing this. I need to pick a point that I can get exactly the same on both sides. We're going to do diagonals. So I'm going to go exactly from the central line, bottom corner. I think that angle's too aggressive, so we're going to this corner, we'll adjust it. Make sure it's pulled tight. Wrapped all the way around, and then very importantly, make sure it's pressed in. You can use something to make sure it's pressed in. The corners don't matter as much, but give it a go. Okay, that on both sides. Just doing my due diligence. Sometimes you're going to have rivets and stuff. You're going to make your life harder, but we have a plan for that at the end. It's going to be forgiving. Make sure these are tucked in so you can't pull them off by accident when they get stuck to you later on. Right, you have a choice now. You can do a second line here, making a thin stripe, which is what we're going to do, I think. Or what you can do is you can just stipple against this line and try not to go too far using a small brush. We only want a guideline. That's it. See how my guessing was? Not so bad. And for reference, I can check on the other side how far I've gone. You're better off making this too small rather than too big. Trust me on that. Really, really kind of take that very, very seriously. Poke it in, press it in, nail or a knife or the butt end of your brush. Right, hazard time. So just as a note, you could have sprayed a varnish down over yellow if you're worried about getting this step on and wanting to protect it, or there's also a way to use that for chipping. So that's where you do it if you are doing something like that. So there's some really important stuff here, and this is the type of thing that it's very easy to get wrong if you don't follow the small details, which I'm going to try and make really clear that are very important. You do not want this stippling stage to have too much paint on your brush or for it to be too wet. Okay, so I'm going to remove quite a lot of it. Hopefully that test is really clear. And then you stipple directly at your mini. Build up how much is on the brush or how wet it is. Do not start there and then have to go backwards, because there is no going backwards. And the reason you want to be stippling straight at it, not at an angle, is if your brush does slip under the tape, it's going to slip way less far if you're just going straight up, straight down. If it doesn't go perfectly or something does go wrong, we've got weathering. Don't rush this. Okay, so if you've put too much on, make sure you let it 100% dry. You should probably let it 100% dry regardless. I think I've not been too heavy anywhere. Okay. Same successful hazards. We're going for an overall effect though, so you can see that I didn't do straight lines there. Don't worry, we'll fix it in post. Now, the single most important thing here is that you need to be constantly aware of what will happen if you continue making your lines too fat. So every single stage, you're trying your absolute best not to go too far with how thick your lines are. Brace, you can see I'm holding it in my holder. I'm very, very kind of cramped up at my table, not that you can see my posture. That's all right. We're not going for perfect. I really want to emphasize that. We're just going for okay. This side, I can make this one fatter, but I don't want to be too greedy. Do it in a couple of goes. And make sure you hold your mini at whatever angle is going to make this the easiest. A little bit of wobble there, but not too bad. Turn it around. This is one of the ways that the egg will help. It just helps you brace. There we go. So we have our initial lines now. They're not perfect. That's absolutely fine. I'm going to fatten this one a bit and then we'll continue with the others. So next step, I am going to try and put a line in the middle of where I want my next hazard to be. So we're going to have equal thicknesses-ish. So I'm going to go this thickness once for where the yellow is and then half again and do a little dot there. I'm going to then make this section right width. When I'm confident, I'm going to continue at the same trajectory, really steady. Do not try and do everything in one go if you think it might go wrong, because if you've got that little, is this going to go wrong feeling, it will. It 100% will. Let stuff fully dry between steps. Take your time. Be sparing with your fixing, let it fully dry, turn it around, get the angles you need, and make your lines fatter incrementally. just don't rush. If you need a little kind of like shake out exercise and you're getting a bit tense or you're getting worried, just block in your existing stuff. We're only using a flat black here, so you know, you can happily paint in the middle of your existing ones, especially the stippled one, and that'll just give you a little bit of a break and a refresher. Obviously slow down when you get to the edges. You don't want to be creeping those lines fatter. The number one rule. Now have a really good look at it. Be sparing with your fixing. And remember, if any small section of it goes wrong, we can fix that. So you aim to not make a big error. Trying to get that angle all right. There we go. Like painting eyes, if you haven't f***ed it up, then you can stop. Good enough is good enough. Very corner now, start very sparingly here. Just a little. Now, if at any point things go astray, which they have slightly here, it's okay. And I keep saying it, but it should be fine. You can just take your masking tape you've already used and you can give yourself another little careful straight guideline. So match your angles and your lines up. Put it down and then just stipple against the edge of it and use that. Make sure you put it in the middle of where your next one should be. And then all you need is something like this. That's enough to help. The most important part is the very, very peaks. So if you're going to concentrate on getting anywhere right, try and get the very, very pinnacles correct. So I didn't spend too much time fixing them. I wanted to kind of leave them honestly wobbly, but the moment I put a black border around them, which is an undercoat for my silver, you can see suddenly they start looking better. It makes a really big difference. So don't judge them before you've kind of filled in the blocks around them. Trust me on that. It really does make a difference. And maybe you're actually satisfied with something that you thought you weren't, which, you know, that's great. I'm just going to base coat the silver. I'm going to quickly go over a trim painting technique. You want to see a really good version of this, check out the video linked here. That's our how to paint gold trim video, extremely popular. And essentially it's just about building up multiple layers of washes. I'm going to leave this a very clean, neutral silver, but you can absolutely put some more color in. And if you are, you know, you can use something like this. But base coating first, let's rock on. Now we're talking. Number one things to watch out for, but you can make a small mistake with them, because I realize it's very hard not to. You need to paint your inside trim. It can just be easier to paint it from the front. So if you think you're going to slip, take that approach. Trust me on that. If you do think you're going to slip, you will. Otherwise, paint it really carefully. Go from minimal approach. You don't have to catch all of the inside of the trim. If you go slightly further than you should have, do not worry. Don't try and fix it. We're going to fix it with a wash, kind of accidentally and passively. So pick one of two courses. You can just paint it from the front. I'll show you here. Side on. That'll only hit the front. You won't ever go too far because you're not actually going down far enough to hit the wrong bits. You know, two coats. Make sure you get them thin nicely. Otherwise, really, really careful. Brace two fingers. I'm using an egg. Very steady. Wrists on table. All the normal stuff. And then kind of pull it towards you slowly and in control. If you slip upwards though, a small amount for all of the line, it completely doesn't matter. We're going to fix it. And as you'll see, even using a slightly old tired brush, brace, brace, brace. Can you see how many points of contact I've got here? 1, 2, 3, close, small movements, hold breath. I'm going down at the top of it. I'm not going side onto it. That will result in a much bigger slip, but a small consistent slip all the way around is okay. Look at how much better these stripes look. I did not make the stripes better. I'm just painting around them. One thing to consider is it is likely that you make some mistakes while doing this type of a technique. So maybe you don't need to do the bits you won't be able to see on the mini. So I'm going to do the upwards facing, the bottom edges, but the downwards facing top edges, you could just skip. All right. So if something is a technique where you're likely to make a mistake and you don't have to do it, don't do it. And I promise you, if you don't do it, you can't make a mistake. Okay, so the wash stage begins. Something very important to say for this is you need a brush that you trust. So you can use an old one, but it has to be a good quality brush. You know, if you're getting uncontrolled blobs, so we're looking to control it. I'm going to be using my Nuln Oil, which is these days very soft and quite forgiving. I'm going to be using it almost neat. And then I'm going to be controlling how much of it is there. Because it's so soft these days, that's absolutely fine. On your first coat, Don't expect stuff to go like 100% perfectly. You're just trying to cover the area. It will perform better on the second coat. So little dabs all the way around. Gravity is in effect 24 hours a day. If you put too much on an area and you're holding that area not flat, it's going to run. So if I put a big blob here, it would run down here. Obvious when I say it out loud, right? So what you do, the section that you're painting, have it facing upwards. You're going to see, using my egg, turning it around, each section that I paint, it's quite a thin coat, it should dry pretty fast. I am turning that so it is horizontal. The closer it is to vertical, the more running problems you're going to have, the less you're going to be in control. So you just got to think about which way up your mini is facing. Look at that slip. We'll fix that. They happen. Don't go so slow that your stuff doesn't have time to dry. Sorry, it starts drying before you kind of go into your next stroke. You want to be joining together wet sections, not partially dried sections. So you've got to go quite fast, quite thin. Work your way around. I'll do the top later. Good brush, right amount of paint. Using that angle, so comfortable. I cannot emphasize enough how much eggs make this easier. Let it fully dry before I change its angle. Or at least dry enough. Now I turn it. So if I'd done that too soon, it would have been bad. And we'd be looking at a far worse miniature now. And it's literally, you know, just for a tiny amount of knowledge. That's not skill. That's just knowing how paint behaves and working with it rather than trying to fight it. Do that twice. Second one, it is exactly the same as the first. You might need to do this one a little bit slower. I am trying to make it pull around rivets. Also, if there's been any areas where I've left like an edge, you know, just because things haven't gone perfectly, I'm going to try and hide that edge under a slightly thicker blob. To be considered about it. Dab, dab, dab. Again, your rules are, you can play with something while it's drying, but if it's, you know, it's still wet. But if it started going partially dry and you might screw it up, you're not allowed to touch it. Just accept it. That section is what it is at that point. If you want to dot really heavy on rivets, you're better doing it twice rather than doing it once thick. You won't save any time if you make a mistake, trust me. Mistakes will happen around rivets, so there we need to pay attention. Do not forget your different facing sections. So I nearly moved on to my third stage there when I hadn't done my second stage on the top bit here. Just try and be methodical about it, don't rush. Right, I promised some edging. Dab, dab, dab. This is going to hide all of our slips. You might have to do it twice. It's pretty fast, it's quite forgiving. Just make sure you're going with your brush in at the corner at like 45 degrees. You don't want to be going in from this side or that side. You can point your brush beforehand. This is why you need a good, predictable brush. Dab, dab, dab. If you get some smudges, it's fine. Your Warhammer is at war. Do not worry about it. And that's going to hide all of our slips. Okay, to where we had our bad one, which was on an upwards area, which we didn't even need to paint. So some good lessons there. So I've done a slightly thicker one. Might need to, but it's all good. Once you get more confident, you can go quite fast. And if you go over, fix it with a finger. Hey, look at that. So if you're not doing weathered, you could stop there. Up to you, but we are doing weathered, so we're not going to stop because our stuff is at war. And I also want to add a little bit more depth into our trim. And I'm going to do that by pushing some extra Nuln Oil towards the rivets. You can dot and blob wherever you want it. Maybe I should show you. Okay. Brush used sideways. You'll need more on your brush than you think for this, but still not like too much. What I'll do is it'll pull away from the edges. You cannot do this at the start, especially with metallics, because a good metallic is quite a slippy surface and the wash will run down it. But once you put Nuln Oil over it, which has got a less shiny finish, will kind of stay static more. The wash will stay static more on the piece. I should have put more on my palette. The more steps you do as well, the more you can even things out. If you've had a section that's gone too light or too heavy, you can fix it by comparison. You know, you can make the section next to it darker if it was too dark, or if it was too light, you can blob specifically more in that area. It's up to you. You are in control, even if you've gone wrong in previous ones, or, you know, just had bad luck, whatever. Cool. Now, if you go too heavy, you'll get sections like this. And I can't give you a guideline for that, but just if you think you might be going too heavy, you can always do it in 2 goes. So try and avoid getting that, or I went too heavy on these sections, which is a little bit of a shame. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hair dry this to make sure it's 100% dry. I'm going to do some lovely kind of soft, careful dry brushing. Okay, Series D on the go. An opportunity to ignore how this one looks, someone who wasn't me used it. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to show you how you can use a bigger brush than you think for small tasks with dry brushing. That's a really important thing to know. This is super strong paint. We're going to use that to our advantage, but it does mean that we need to be cautious. 1 drop of water off the back of the brush. Work it in first. Now, bigger brushes are easier to get correct dilution with. Okay, it's harder to oversaturate a bigger brush. You know, when you say it out loud, it sounds really obvious. Yeah, because a small thing is more easily affected by a small amount, whereas a big one is less affected, even if it's a big amount. So I'm going to make our bristles wet first. Take the tiniest clinical smidge of paint, the brush vertical, have it only at the top. Work it around on the palette, and I'm observing how this looks now. Go somewhere that's not wet. Practice. Now, there's not much paint coming off the brush, so all I have to do is go at the trim specifically, and I will barely hit the non-trim areas. So I'm going side on, but I'm trying to hit the trim. So I'm hitting the trim, and the brush is going to do the work for me because we set it up well. Just going to pick out the edges of the trim, and I'm only going to get ever so slight, you know, barely perceptible amounts on the actual hazard stripe section. Do circles if you want. Easy. This is why you need minimal texture on your palette. Just check it on an edge. We're good. There we go. My putty's got hot. That's what I get for not using blue tack. I mean, that looks mint, right? Really, really, really good. You could try and hit your rivets like this as well, and it'll do it, but I get them by hand. Rivets dotting side on, and I'm going to take the opportunity to redot, because shiny rivets just look good. Side on, make contact, wiggle if needed. You can see how I'm bracing, right? So flat on the desk, not wiggling. Pinky, ring finger. Everything's really close together. And there's a lot of bracing points. Just makes it easier. Don't leave it up to chance. Try not to be tempted to use really thick paint here and do like a physical 3-dimensional blob, because it tends to go wrong. Okay, my brave painters. Time to sack it up and do something a little bit scary. A small amount of Agrellan on my palette. I've made sure my brush isn't too wet here. I don't want this paint running around. In case you've got to test. Don't want your paint too dilute. How it goes on your test is how it will go on your model. Peel off dots like that. If you feel you want to do it manually, again, you don't want it too wet. What's on there needs to be ready to leave, and you need dilution for that, but you don't want it to be semi-opaque paint. You can just do some little scratches. The aim of these scratches is to put them where you've made mistakes. So you want to draw attention to that area, but to the scratch, not to the slip. And you just do that over your edges. Turn your model around to get whatever angle is going to make doing these the easiest. Foam is fine too. Again, you don't want to be doing stuff twice, and you've got to be using opaque paint. So set it up. Test elsewhere. In and out. In and out. All right, so you could absolutely stop there, and I think it looks really, really good. Go and look at some references, battle damage, other people's painting, that type of stuff. What we're going to do though is we're going to push the weathering towards the bottom of the piece. So we're going to take our nice soft non-oil. I'm going to add a little bit of chocolate to it. Non-oil is soft. This paint isn't super strong, but it's definitely not soft like non-oil. So we'll do that carefully and incrementally. I'll dilute it with some water. Just looking to make like a soft, dirty mix. And we'll push that towards the bottom of our piece. You could stipple this as well if you wanted. If you were doing that, then maybe that's something you could do before you did the trim. Or maybe it's just fine for your trim to get dirty too, because it is towards the bottom of it. Pushing, ending our strokes in the recesses. What we should end up with is a little, it could be stronger there. Is a little pooling of like rust or dirt or just general grime on that bottom lip, and it's going to look really, really good. Okay, we are done. Turned out really well. If you're doing this at home, and maybe when you click this video, you're like, why is the video that long? Be forgiving with yourself, take your time, but you're not aiming for perfect, right? Just remember that. Remember how ours looked at certain points when it looked literally wobbly, and hold in mind that you're just adding together like 4 or 5 processes. If they're all like 70% good, you will be fine. It could even look great. It could look like one of the coolest things you've ever painted. So hold that in mind. I'm going to link a couple of videos at the end of this for metallic masterclasses, one that's an old one that's very popular, it's got some streaking grime on it, and another one that's much more recent where we use verdigris. We also put some texture paint down under our paints before we've even primed the model, and that adds some rust texture that we make the most of, and it works really, really well. Do some verdigris in that one as well. I've been using a medium egg upside down for all this. It's really helped me get all the angles, and with those wash tricks to keep it horizontal, it's been fantastic. They'll be linked down below as well. They're our model holders, and I absolutely love them. It's a really good way to support the channel. Thank you very much for watching. Pop us a suggestion down below. We'll catch you in the next video.